Charles Entertainment Cheese, otherwise known as Chuck E. Cheese. This is the closest thing we have to real-life Five Nights at Freddy's, and if I'm being honest, it's almost as unnerving. All we need is a few dead kids, and oh boy have we got ourselves a party. If you were a child at all in the early 2000s to mid-2010s, shit, even now, you definitely know what a Chuck E. Cheese's is. You've probably been there. I know, I didn't get to go there for any of my birthdays, because I was dirt poor throughout my childhood. But my younger siblings had a lot of birthday parties there. You know, it's a cool arcade, pizza. A lot of people know it because Catfucker, the most popular one, Shane Dawson, made a video about it. And how the pizza is recycled. Listen, fam, I do not give a shit. Have you ever drinking powdered milk? That shit is vile. After that, you'll eat anything. Recycled pizza? Do not give a fuck. If it looks edible, I'm gonna eat it. Anyways, that's that tangent out of the way. Chuck E. Cheese is an interesting place, and when this Iceberg was recommended to me by a subscriber, I knew I had to do it because I have a history with weird company icebergs, and I figured why not carry on the legacy. So if you clicked on this video, thank you so much for that. Buckle your fuckles, get cozy, get ready to go to the Shadow Realm, because we're diving right on in. Without further ado, let me just get into it. Level 1. If you don't understand how an iceberg works at this point, I can't really help you. No one can. So seek Jesus and pray that somehow the divine can reach you. No, I'm just fucking with you. The way an iceberg chart works, everything that everyone knows is at the top, everything no one knows is at the bottom, and everything in between is varying. It's varying, so yes. Now, without further ado, this is level 1. Let's get into it. Chuck E. Cheese, otherwise known fully as Charles Entertainment Cheese. Is that shocking that it's an actual fact? Well, it should be. So, Chuck started in the 70s as this hip, cool rat mascot. He was from New Jersey, so hell itself, and he often carried a cigar and told jokes. Now, this is very 70s, but in the 90s, Charles E. Cheese had to get a little bit more hip with it, a little bit more funky, so they introduced this guy. And then in 93, they decided, hey, you know, maybe Chuck shouldn't be subhuman, and by that I mean from New Jersey, or a rat anymore. Let's make him a mouse. Mice are cute. Look at Mickey, the fucking dominator of the world he is. This is, of course, before Mickey Mouse forced Chuck E. Cheese into bankruptcy, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Now, of course, they then changed the design yet again in 2012, but Chuck E. Cheese is the name character of Chuck E. Cheese establishments before the company went tits up, so very interesting just to see the evolution of this character. And of all places, New Jersey. Who the fuck was like, New Jersey, that's where this fucking rat is from? You know what kids love? They love a big-ass rat with a New Jersey accent who smokes cigars and tells jokes. It sounds like an adult entertainment place, like if you wanted to see a robotic, half-rate stand-up comedian. Chuck E. Cheese would do great. The first iteration would. Arcade games. Chuck E. Cheese's is known for arcade games. Who would have ever thought that the arcade had arcade games? Animatronics. For all of you about to comment, OMG, Five Nights at Freddy's, here's what I recommend. Go spend 5 nights with some bitches. Chuck E. Cheese's was one of the first places to use animatronics, robotic entertainers. Chuck E. Cheese and his little gang of friends they all sure did do stuff. It's kinda uncanny, really. But hey, it's sure is there. Oh boy, were the 80s a time of innovation and Ronald Reagan, and thus the stagnation of the American ideal and the death of the world as an habitable place for those of the future and my generation. Those animatronics have left me and my peers nothing but dust. Pizza. Chuck E. Cheese's has pizza. Dance floor. Oh my god. Alarm. No. Dance floor. Some Chuck E. Cheese restaurants, before the entire franchise as a whole went tits up in 2020, decided that in 2019 they were going to phase out the animatronics. It's probably not a good brand to have after, Five Nights at Freddy's. And they instead replaced it with a guy in a suit and a dance floor, because isn't that cool? You know what kids come to Chuck E. Cheese's to do? Dance. The concept of public dancing really, it kinda died in like 2008 when people realized, when cringe culture came about, honestly. But hey, if little kids want to go dance and shit their pants and have fun with a guy probably stoned as fuck in a Chuck E. Cheese suit, more power to them, really. Oh boy, that was just the longest first level ever. I think I'm gonna need to take a break and nap after that first level. Just kidding. If you're still watching, thank you so much for making it this far. Now let's go ahead and get further into it. Charles Entertainment Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese's full legal name is Charles Entertainment Cheese. You thought I was joking in the intro and the first entry? You were dead fucking wrong. That's actually his name. Helen Henny. There's several things to unpack here. Chuck E. Cheese is in a band, and Helen Henny is in that band. She's a vocalist, former tambourine player, bassist, and guitarist of Munch's make-believe band Chuck E. Cheese's. She's not officially a musician in stage setups, but the animatronic is there. And who is Chuck E. Cheese's wife? Helen Henny. How do I know this? The fucking Chuck E. Cheese fandom. These last few weeks have had me saying some very strange sentences I did not think I'd be saying. But you know what? It makes sense. Hens are just the most sexual creature. They're so motherly. This joke was dead in the water as soon as I made it. Listen, MILFs are cool. Chickens are not. Don't even fucking think about it. Okay? I know there's some real degenerates online. But hopefully it's none of those apes are watching my videos. Mr. Munch. Imagine if Barney the dinosaur and Grimace had hate sex. Not the kinky, hot kind of hate sex, but the ugly, disgusting kind of hate sex that leaves both participants deeply disturbed with themselves and the person of whom they just fucked the brains out of. The byproduct of that is Mr. Munch. What is Mr. Munch? Besides a direct threat to children and small adults, Mr. Munch is an animatronic featured in the Showbiz pizza chain of restaurants, which is also owned by Chuck E. Cheese, and thus also within their realm of grasp. Now, Mr. Munch debuted in 1978. I'm sure that was because of the sacrifice of a few children. It has to take some sort of deep, heavy toll to bring such a foul creature from the depths of hell onto this plane itself. But Mr. Munch appeared in 1978 and was in the Pizza Time theaters and Showbiz Pizza Times before Chuck E. Cheese's was like, okay, everybody, let's get back on the same page, and bought them out the same way Walt Disney is doing to fucking everything these days. And from 1999 to present, Mr. Munch has still been a threat to society at large and children. This guy has to eat at least 5 toddlers a day just to survive. Look at those eyes. Those are uncaring eyes. Those are the eyes of a predator. This thing needs to be exiled from everywhere. Take it off the goddamn planet. None of us are safe from it. Anyway, Mr. Munch is the name guy in that band that Chuck E. Cheese's is in, and directly threatening. It will harm you. This feels like an SCP. I stare at this thing too long, it's gonna start knocking on my doors. I'm moving on to the next entry. Jasper T. Jowls. You're never gonna guess what the T in this guy's name stands for. That's right, Tennessee, because he was born in Nashville, Tennessee. You know what that means? That means that this goofy motherfucker has got one hell of a redneck voice. Just listen to him.
Thank y'all. Now let me see if I'm in voice. Oh.
Oh, I wish I was in a land of cotton, old times there.
I'm kinda slow, can't talk faster, sorta laid back.
Now, anyways, Jasper T. Jowls is another member of Munch's make-believe band, and what I think is make-believe about that band is the fact that children aren't going missing around Mr. Munch. Trust me, that guy's a satanic force. I know he feasts on the souls of the innocent. Anyways, Jasper is unaware of his role in this. He just plays banjo and now bass, so that's great for him. You take a look at some of these pictures, his portrait up here. His portrait makes him look like a friendly guy. He's well-groomed, he's soft, he's fuzzy, he's friendly. Friendly. Down here, he's not. Down here, he looks like he's in on it. You see this fucking face? That's the face of a man who just watched someone get violently murdered, and he is okay with it. He is complacent in it. Pascali P pie plate. Okay, with how these names are going, I wouldn't be surprised if the P in his name stood for fucking porno pizza or some shit. But basically, Pascali P pie plate is the drummer for Munch's make-believe band at Chuck E. Cheese restaurants, and he's also chief pizza chef and an aspiring comedian. I think the joke here is his existence. His name is a phonetic misspelling of the Italian name Pascale, which sounds about right. Hopefully I'm not butchering the pronunciation of that. Basically, this guy he's just... I don't want to say it's racially charged, the way that they do him, but it might be. There's definitely some very Italian stereotypes just thrown at this guy. Fun fact about the trivia, though, he is the first Chuck E. Cheese character besides Chuck himself to get a brand trademark, and that brand being Pascali's Pizza and Wings, the order service of Chuck E. Cheese on Grubhub. Oh, Grubhub, it has been so long since I heard that goddamn name. The Iceberg that started it all. That was my first Iceberg, and it netted me like 3,000 views, and I was like, wow, that's cool. You know what I'm not gonna do? Another Iceberg video. Oh, how that fucking idiot was wrong. Good job, another pen from a year ago now? Oh my god. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the pictures. Again, like Jasper, he looks friendly up in his official portrait, but we scroll down, and like Jasper, he is fucking in on it. This is a face of a man who chops up kids. This guy kidnaps local dogs and tortures them. Look at this. Who the hell designed this fucking thing and was like, yeah, kids are gonna eat this up. I feel very safe around this design. Like, listen, I'm happy for your pizza thing, man, but you gotta fix your face, homie. Recycled pizza. Remember that documentary, quotation marks on that, that our the internet's favorite cat fucker produced about whether or not the pizza was recycled? That's what this entry is referring to. That's right, Shane Dawson. You know what, I would correct myself, but he doesn't even deserve it. He's just my punching bag for this entry. Shane Dawson made a video about whether or not Chuck E. Cheese's pizza was recycled because it's weirdly shaped. Which, hey, it's an economic plan. If one pizza, full pizza, does not get fully eaten, what the fuck are you supposed to do? Just throw out the pizza? What kind of bitch-ass mentality is that? Listen, if you're going to a kid's restaurant and paying $5 for a whole thing of pizza, what the fuck does it matter where it came from? Pizza is pizza. So that's my take on the recycled pizza thing. I think it's an innovative business plan, and I respect it. As long as you're not, like, fishing it out of the trash, we're good. Poggers. Before this was an internet buzzword, and it was also the phrase I used when I wanted to call my homies fat, juicy cheeks, scrumptious. Poggers were actually a thing. They were this weird little button thing, and you'd have faces on them and shit. The 90s were a weird time, okay? It was before the internet. I just imagine that everyone before the internet was bored all the time. This shit is like heroin directly into my entertainment centers. The 90s must have fucking sucked. Or maybe, you know, before everyone was addicted to entertainment heroin, they were pretty cool. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then. Or at least that's what I want you to think, so that way I can get away with the dozens of heinous crimes I committed in 1992. Rockstar Chuck. Okay, so someone doing crystal meth in their grandmother's basement is cooking up the ideas for Chuck E. Cheese Incorporated. And amongst them, they decided, hey, you know what the characters need? You know what kids in 2012 really like? Me fucking neither. So let's make them all rock stars. And that's what they did. They made all the characters rad and punk. And that definitely is what appealed to the youth of 2012. Because rock and roll and rock stars were definitely popular in 2012. That was just the greatest time for rock and roll. It definitely was not like rock and roll was dying. And there's a lot of you in the comments who will probably be like, no, how dare you? Rock isn't dying. It's dead. Rock and roll is dead. There is almost nothing new hitting the mainstream. The genre is niche again. Live with it. Those last, 12 bands still going on tour with the members hitting 40 plus, that is not keeping rock alive. That's keeping it in purgatory. Accept it. You're indie again. Anyways, so sales weren't going well for Chuck E. Cheese Entertainment, so they figured, yep, let's redesign Chuck and his friends. And again, someone on crystal meth in their grandmother's basement were like, you know what kids like? Me neither. Let's give him a guitar! And that's what they did. They gave him a guitar. And then there was some backlash because they changed voice actors, but I'll be honest, I was poor as a kid, so I kind of looked at the Chuck E. Cheese commercials with loathing, like, oh, you bastards. I never cared to listen to the actual voice. It was more just the hatred it inspired inside of me, so I don't really think anyone cares. I just think it's kind of funny. Basically, Jarrett Reddick, best known as a lead singer for the band Bowling for Soup, got no clue what the hell that is, was hired for the singing and speaking voice of Chuck E. Cheese in the campaign. And then they released Chuck's hot new single. Could you imagine, you and your guys or friends, you start a band, you know, you're doing pretty well, and you're looking for your next big hit, your breakthrough, and fucking Chuck E. Cheese is like, say, I'll tell you what, kid, I've got the opportunity of a lifetime. You come and voice this fucking rat, and it'll make you famous, I promise. And then you agree to it. I don't understand the thought process behind this, but fuck. More power to you, Jarrett Reddick. The funny thing is, though, is they released this song for Chuck E. Cheese, and his personality's, you know, like a rock star. He's going through his emo phase. I don't want bitches, I want cocaine. You know, stuff like that. And then the OG voice actor, Duncan Brannon, he finds out, not because they tell him, no, 3 days before the whole thing is officially announced through the Chuck E. Cheese email club, because that is a goddamn thing for whatever reason, he finds out through that he's been replaced. Could you imagine finding out you've been fired from your job because they hired someone and then they wrote a song to celebrate them getting hired? That's just insulting. And then this guy tries to save pride by being like, no, please. I'm still doing contract work with Chuck E. Cheese? Yeah, sure, bud. Sure. This Chuck E. Cheese, strangely enough, owns a cat. And his previous rags to riches backstory has been entirely retconned, and now Chuck E. Cheese, like most people going to that fucking entertainment branch, were born wealthy, the bastards. His father is now a wealthy, wait for it, pizza tycoon. But he doesn't have a mom, so rest in piss, bozo. No mommy. L plus ratio plus motherless behavior. Avenger Chuck. I'll be honest, when I read that and started doing the research, I was fully expecting to find out how Disney yet again managed to shove their fingers up another innocent company's asshole and puppet through them with that. But no, this name makes zero goddamn sense. What is Avenger Chuck? It's just Chuck E. Cheese, but cool. And by cool, I mean a fucking poser, because this bozo dresses like a skater, but does not skate. Imagine being a poser. Must suck. He also plays saxophone, and just his demeanor gives me Bill Clinton vibes, so I'm gonna go out of the way and assume that he definitely gets blowjobs from someone who is not Helen Henny in an office. Just looking at him, he looks like the type to cheat. Anyway, this is once again inspired by Chuck E. Cheese Entertainment being like, what's cool and hip with the kids? But this time, instead of completely missing the mark, they got it right, because what was cool and hip in the 90s, or at least I imagine, was skating, skate scene. I know how to speak, I promise. The skate scene was pretty cool. Still is. It's just not as popular. Anyway, for physical description, because you should be terrified, Avenger Chuck is a 6-foot tall mouse. Now, luckily, I still loom over him at 6'4", but for most of you short mortals out there, this is a being to fear. Now, of course, he doesn't have a tail, which makes it questionable why they call him a mouse. Well, this is the only version of Chuck to not have that, and it's also completely unknown where the Avenger name came from. It was used in a costume character manual given to stores in order to train cast members, but no one elaborated on the origins of the name, and if Disney catches wind of this, they are going to come for blood. Or at least they're going to come for the dust that is left of the Chuck E. Cheese franchise, because, like I said, the company fucking died in 2020. Which, by the way, in case you want to slap to the face, at the time of recording, 2020 was 2 years ago. How does that feel? I can tell you how it makes me feel, not good. Okay, and with that, we're on to level 3. I've accidentally crunch-cultured myself even more intensely than I did on the Evangelion Iceberg. So, buckle your fuckles, because this is going to be one hell of a ride. Now, without further, not even going to say it to you, psych, what do you think I am, every other YouTuber? Let's just get into this. Pizza Time Theater. Chuck E. Cheese's used to be, well, it used to be several companies, one of these being Pizza Time Theater, and by companies I mean franchises. There was a lot of different names, but they all answered to the same overlord, that purple goddamn menace. Chuck E. Cheese used to smoke a cigar. The 70s and the 80s were a weird time, yo. There was still leading up and everything. Capitalism was... Fuck. Chuck E. Cheese used to smoke a cigar. Listen, the 70s and the 80s were a weird time, yo. Reagan was around. That dirty rat bastard. God, I'd kill him if I had the chance. And people thought a lot of things were cool, like Reagan. God, I'd kill him if I had the fucking chance. So when it came time for a bunch of sweaty old men who thought that animatronics would be a great, friendly idea, they were like, what is gonna make this guy cool? And some dude was like, I'll tell you what, a Jersey accent, and he smokes cigars. I imagine the person who said this, the fella who inspired that, was a guy with a Jersey accent who smoked cigars. Just a strange hunch. Confederate flags flying in the old stores. You know what I have to say to that? Point me in the fucking direction. That dirty, stupid traitor's bitch rag has no place in this country. I will directly harm anyone who dares disagree with me. Again, the 70s and the 80s, they were a really weird time. People were confused. Lead was in everything. AIDS wasn't a big deal yet, so there was so much fucking sex, it was unreal. But most of all, some dumbasses were like, yeah, lost cause. Shut the fuck up. Lost cause? My ass. And my dick. Dolly Dimples. Oh boy, another fucking character entry. Luckily this time the character does not seem to be nearly as villainous or as evil as Mr. Munch and his gang. Dolly Dimples is a blues, jazz, piano-playing hippo that played in the cabaret side dining rooms at Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. Now, of course, her name appeared in a photo in 2017, but for the most part she was only really around in the 70s, which is... that tracks. There is only one cyber animatronic type deal going on down at the bottom here, unlike the rest of the characters that have multiple. And you know what? This one doesn't look as evil. I'm fucking with you. Play me some jazz, fam. Play me some jazz. The King. Yet again, another character entry. This one gets a little balls to the walls, though. The same year that Showbiz Pizza opened, Elvis Presley died trying to birth a 13-pound shit from his asshole, because heroin does that to you, kids. Heroin, bad. Don't get constipated. Now, of course, the King was a 9-foot-tall animatronic lion who was very clearly a parody of Elvis Presley that was at Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. The King wore a white jumpsuit with silver lining and a red guitar. The character was programmed to sing Elvis songs, most of which were original recordings, and he often made dedications of songs to members of the Pizza Time players in the main diner area. The outro of each skit would tell the audience to visit the main dining area, take a walk through the fantasy forest, or enjoy some pizza. Now, of course, some restaurants had the King all the way up until 1995, and he'd continue singing original Chuck E. Cheese songs. The King then died just like Elvis did in real life, but not of heroin overdose, and not on the toilet trying to birth a 13-pound shit. Of course, the King was resurrected because, as we all know, media can't let things stay dead. Look at the Bible and Jesus Christ. The King made a cameo in later music videos because, for whatever reason, Chuck E. Cheese's has music videos. But he was there. Basically, he's just a knockoff Elvis, and he sure does do Elvis stuff, like tap his left foot along with the beat of the music, sing, not groom 15-year-old girls, so he has that over Elvis, not addicted to heroin. So honestly, I think the King is better than Elvis, if you'll humor me on that. Now, of course, in 2016, a King was found and restored by a private collector named Jared Sanchez, and private collector of animatronics just has to be someone who is trying to start Five Nights at Freddy's, but in real life, I would not. How can you live in a house with those things? It's just threatening. There is also another King in the left corner back of the dining area at Jungle Jim's grocery store in Fairfield, Ohio. Why do they have the King there? Great question. But that's where Elvis Presley's legacy wound up. Jungle Jim's grocery store. What the fuck even is that? That's such a silly, nonsensical name. I've got to know now. Jungle Jim's, Ohio. It's just an international market with a lot of stuff. Okay. Ohio is trippin'. Alright, the American Midwest is purgatory itself. You know how I say the southern part of the United States is hell? The Midwest is purgatory, and the East and West coasts, respectively, that is like... It's just a different level of purgatory, if we're being honest. But the Midwest and the South are a different place, and I am so sorry for all of those with the severe misfortune of having been born in the third world parts of first world nations, because first world problems, am I right? Rolf is Chuck E. Now we're really cooking with fire, baby. Now we're really getting the baking grease on the pan. How many more shitty cooking allegories can I make for this? Basically, we're finally diving into the Chuck E. Cheese lore. So there's this neat little thing that's been bounced around called concept unification, and that is because Showbiz Pizza locations and Chuck E. Cheese's pizzeria locations were both owned by Chuck E. Cheese, but they had different characters. This was a problem, so between 1990 and 1992, Chuck E. Cheese united the two companies in what is known as concept unification, where they had all the same characters. The issue is Rolf... What is his fucking name? Rolf de Wolf. He's the star, but Chuck E. Cheese is the star, and there can only be one star. So they decided that Rolf E. Wolf had to go, that Rolf was going to get killed, and thus every Rolf animatronic was retrofitted to become Chuck, and thus Rolf is actually Chuck. Somewhere deep down there, that exoskeleton remembers what it once was, and what its human overlords did to it. Again, I do not trust animatronics. Maybe it's like the way it ruined clowns for everyone. Maybe that's what Five Nights at Freddy's did to my generation in animatronics. But I don't fucking trust them. How could you look at a robot and be like, yeah, I am safe with that? Because I'll tell you what, you're not. Studio C. I can't believe that Chuck E. Cheese's of all fucking things has a goddamn Wikipedia. Well, not a Wikipedia, but a wiki. But thank you to the fandom website for powering this video, goddamn. Now anyway, Studio C is a stage setup commonly found in Chuck E. Cheese's restaurants. It was basically, hey, what if we take Chuck E. Cheese and we make him yet another lazy, uninspired late-night talk show host, because the late-night shows have just been... they've been dead for a while. There's really not any good ones anymore. Anyway, the executives there decided, yep, that's what kids like. They want a Jay Leno-style setup because little 8-year-old Timmy, he knows what Jay Leno is, and he's like, ah, yes, I enjoy jokes and commentary about the modern socioeconomic climate of America. Thank you, Charles Entertainment Cheese. Of course, this idea didn't go over well, so there was Studio C Alpha, Studio C Beta, and Studio C God Kappa, there we go, because Greek for whatever reason, and it was just Chuck E. Cheese on a desk with different characters in a studio setup. Sometimes other characters would be on there, but the whole idea was, why the fuck do we have all of these characters? The only one anyone knows who isn't being sacrificed to Mr. Munch is Chuck, so why do we have all this extra shit? Which is a good... it's a good business way of thinking. The issue is that Chuck is just not entertaining enough. No one thinks of Chuck E. Cheese and thinks funny. Everyone thinks of Chuck E. Cheese and thinks of, like, screaming, booger-eating children in 2007. I think that's the only time Chuck E. Cheese has ever been really relevant. Again, except for when you're being sacrificed to Mr. Munch. But the FBI has yet to find enough evidence to apprehend him, so to this day, Mr. Munch's crimes go unpunished. You might be wondering how I got outside. Don't worry, my next destination is your mother's house. Concept Unification tape. In 1992, the same year you could buy an R32 GTR Skyline, Concept Unification began. See, in 1984, Chuck E. Cheese had purchased Showtime Business Pizzeria, and this meant that they had the legal copyrights to everything. Chuck E. Cheese liked cost-cutting, and thus, why the hell did they have all these extra random-ass characters in there that were not directly dedicated to Munch's cause of killing all humanity? And thus, Concept Unification began. In 1992, the same year I just mentioned, the bots were stripped down, the animatronics were made naked, and then reassembled as Chuck E. Cheese characters. The Concept Unification tape is a surreal and kind of depressing tape that goes into how you're supposed to do this, giving workers instructions on how to crawl under the stage, how to fix everything, ordering a new Chuck E. Cheese sign, because don't you know, bitch boy, you do not work for Showbiz Pizza anymore. That's right, you're boring, dead-end, boring-ass job, because it's so boring I have to repeat it twice. I definitely know how to speak. It's now Chuck E. Cheese's, baby, so get ready for the corporate thundercock to be shoved down your throat. All hail the mouse. Harmony Howlett, because the characters could not get any fucking weirder. Harmony Howlett is a female guest character who's formerly installed at Pizza Time Theater restaurants from 81 to 82. She was known as, and I fucking quote, the cowgirl who gathers more posse than Jesse James. Interesting. Now, her shows are obviously centered around country and western music, and she is a tomboyish cowgirl from western Texas. L plus ratio plus from Texas plus can't get abortions plus in the American South plus loser mindset. There she grew up with her 3 brothers. She apparently traveled around the country prior to joining the Pizza Time Players. I don't... Chuck E. Cheese lore. I'm being paid to read this. Now, of course, she first appeared in Harmony Howlett's Wild West show, and she then stayed with the show through 1982, when she appeared on her second and last show tape called Harmony's Hoedown. Harmony's character would flirt with the men of the show, winning them over, save for Chuck, because Chuck is on that sextillionaire grind set, just like me, baby. Chuck really hit him with that. Now, she would win them over with singing and Western charm. What Western charm? Racism? She would mostly flirt with Jasper, who obviously had a huge crush on her. Now, basically, the characters didn't get along. Chuck is an asshole because he's on that septillionaire, duodecillionaire Sigma grind set. Harmony is just kind of existing. I don't know. This thing, also unnerving. She looks like she is in on Mr. Munch's evil plan. Anyway, Harmony was rotated out of all PTTs in 1982 and was never seen again, but she was featured on most of the merchandise, and she was apparently on last seen in the 1988 Indiana Jowls parody poster. This is really weird, the lore of these characters. I do not understand it. Anyway, there's no portraits, there's just this one photo. I'm hoping that she was assassinated when the FBI tried to stop Mr. Munch. But before we finish off this entry, we do have a nice quote from her. Whether you find one in a church, a field, a prairie, or a pizza parlor, a rat is still a rat. This is coming from a coyote. A coyote, you know, people have been really annoyed by rats, but there's never once been a $60 bounty on rat ears. Fruitcake dog. Fruitcake dog is often what people would refer to the weird-ass Jasper T jowls animatronic and its wacky-ass accent. People would scream, "Turn off the fruitcake dog!" Does that mean he's gay? Unfortunately, no, because this is the 70s and America still hates gays. Albeit, Fruity is invariably tied to homosexuality for me, so now headcanon, Jasper's a fruitcake. Jasper Tennessee Jowls. Again, Jasper Tennessee Jowls is the fruitcake dog's full name. Munch Jr. The name had me afraid for a moment that Mr. Munch had managed to procreate something that would be disastrous for all of humanity. But no, Munch Jr. is just Mr. Munch's younger sibling, which is alright. It's basically just a little Munch with one tooth and an orange spinny cap that goes in a fucking trash can on stage. Kids kept vandalizing this little guy, so they abandoned him. I mean, he sure does look real cute in that photo. There's no portraits of him, but this one makes him look a little slow. Munch does not look all there in that photo. He looks as though he ate the wrong kind of brownies, and a lot of them. Pizza cam, like that camcorder 12-year-old you found in your mother's room that surely only had forbidden, horrifying knowledge on it. Pizza cam is an anthropomorphic camera that is just there at Chuck E. Cheese's. What is his relation to the other characters? He's a camera. This guy's seen it all. He knows everything, and honestly, he's pretty crucial against Mr. Munch. If Pizza Cam has documented Mr. Munch's crimes, we can finally nail his ass. But anyway, it's just an oddball prop character formerly installed stage left at Chuck E. Cheese's 3-stage locations, and he was located next to the drummer. The character has not been acknowledged by name by other characters. As a matter of fact, his character is only known by name because of the Chuck E. Cheese straight-to-VHS movies. Okay, and what level are we on now? Dear God, I think we're on to level 5. So, thanks for making it this far. Thumb Chuck sign. It's just Chuck E. Cheese giving a fucking thumbs up. Chuck E. Cheese Christmas movie. In all of the tomfuckery that is what's going on at Chuck E. Cheese's, eventually someone was like, hey, you know what we need? We need yet another uninspired Christmas movie up on the TV screens, bitches. And who's gonna be in it? That's right, Chuck E. Cheese. Will Mickey Mouse come for blood if we do it? Yes, and that's probably why it was cancelled. But basically the plot is just yet another, oh no, we have to save Christmas, guys! where Chuck and Jasper go to the North Pole to save Christmas. The cast is actually out there with John Widelock as Chuck E. Cheese, Scott Paulin as Jasper, and Lucille Bliss as Mrs. Claus. Now, of course, for unknown reasons, Pascali, Helen, and Mr. Munch don't appear in this special. This is probably because in 1983, Pascali, Helen, and Mr. Munch were busy overthrowing a government in Argentina and, again, massacring children for their diabolical plans against all of humanity. However, they did have an elf to replace Pascali. This was the first and so far only Chuck E. Cheese cartoon planned to make it onto the TV screen. It was going to be Chuck E. Cheese's big breakthrough, except no, it fucking wasn't. And it's unknown why this special was canceled. That's what the wiki says. I'm telling you right now, someone wanted to get another mouse on screen, and Mickey Mouse, Walt Disney Incorporated, they showed up at the Chuck E. Cheese establishments with guns. They had a sniper rifle trained on the owner's wife and children. They said, if you don't drop that idea right now, we're gonna drop your entire family like a bag of fucking bricks, and you'll never be able to prove we did it. And that's why it was canceled. I am anticipating nothing but villainous acts of Disney. They are the real-life Vogue. If Disney could get away with committing war crimes, they would, and they probably already have. Chuck E. Cheese's 2000 voice actor was a pastor. Duncan Brannon, the voice actor for Chuck E. Cheese through the 2000s, well, he's an interesting fellow. Born June 25th, 1970, he's an American voice actor who also, on the side, is a writer, artist, consultant, and pastor. That's right, Duncan Brannon is Father Brannon to you. He currently lives in Fort Worth, Texas, which really makes me question his opinions on a lot of things. Oh boy, I'm sure this guy has no problems with homosexual people. Definitely not. A pastor in Texas? That is very trustworthy. I am certain this man is of good character. Jasper. I had to pause my Doom Eternal OST for this entry, so you'd better fucking enjoy it. Here's Jasper.
Jasper.
I'm not getting copyright claimed again. Now, it's just 35 seconds of Chuck E. Cheese saying, Jasper. Jasper. This is what passed for a meme in the 90s. Think of how lowly memeing was back then. That this was the pinnacle of comedy. And with that, we're on to level 6. Basically, from here, it may as well all just be one level. There's 5 entries left on the Iceberg, so I'm not even going to bother introducing the levels past this. So it just ends at level 6, basically. It's all level 6 from here. Level 6 all the way down. Have I said 6 enough yet? Private animatronic owners. One of the biggest reasons that Chuck E. Cheese animatronics are still around is not because the franchise in any way was successful, but rather because a group of extremely strange, extremely wealthy, and extremely dedicated fans started gobbling up the animatronics when stores started closing. That's how there's a lot of these characters still in existence and still around, because for whatever reason, someone decided, yeah, you know what, I've got like 50 grand to blow. I'm gonna go buy a horrifying nightmare robot. That sounds like a good idea. Like, listen, I've got a weird thing for musical instruments and swords and cars and most shiny things that attract my ADHD goblin brain. But I would never have the amount of money to think, yeah, I'm gonna buy a fucking animatronic. I don't understand the logic behind that. I don't understand the people. But more power to you. Thank you for preserving that part of history so some jackass on YouTube could shamelessly make a video about it. Spanish-speaking bunny. Yep, there's a character known as Bella or Bella B who appeared once in 2018 and 2019 she's bilingual. That's a selling point. She was also made a band member in 2020 just before the demise. The closest you'll get to a brainstorm is a light drizzle. I'm presuming this is some witty thing Chuck E. Cheese probably said to an unsuspecting side character like Jasper. I don't know, because in my searches online, I found a Dean Koontz excerpt and a lot of websites that did not make a lot of sense, that were about paint drizzling and other kinds of drizzling I'm not getting into for monetization purposes. So I'm sure it was very funny, but I'm not looking any farther than I did. 2.0 is actually good when you look past the animatronic removals. This is the idea that the second gen of Chuck E. Cheese's is good when you look past the animatronic removals, which is the personal opinion of the original poster. Honestly, I don't care about Chuck E. Cheese's that much. I'm just covering the Iceberg because I thought it was interesting. So, if that's what you want to believe, you go ahead and believe it. I can't really dunk on that. Wall-E Weasels. The Simpsons, back when it was counterculture and not the culture itself, parodied Chuck E. Cheese's for, well, just how absurd the idea is. And the byproduct of this parody was Wall-E Weasels, where we cram fun down your throat. It's just a mockery of Chuck E. Cheese's, a mockery much better than... Actually, I can't really call anything The Simpsons does good anymore. Basically, Wall-E Weasels is just the Simpsons writers poking fun at Chuck E. Cheese's, as Chuck E. Cheese and most other big companies deserve. Of course, I can't really call Chuck E. Cheese's big anymore now that they're fucking dead, huh? Guatemala City Chuck E. Cheese. Now we're on the actual Reddit page where you can see this iceberg was posted 7 months ago. The original poster says that this entry is referring to a Chuck E. Cheese in Guatemala with very poorly maintained animatronics. I'm honestly surprised that Chuck E. Cheese even made it to Guatemala, but that does it. I am fighting for my fucking life to not sneeze right now. Okay, that does it. We did it. The entire Chuck E. Cheese video. Hopefully there is not a demonic entity behind me. Anyways, if you made it this far into the video, go ahead and just press subscribe. I'm clearly mildly entertaining, you're clearly mildly bored, we can help each other out. You push a little button down there, I get one step closer to reaching my dream of, doing this for a living. I'm fighting so hard not to sneeze right now, I'll be honest. Now, huge thank you to you for making it through this video, to me for making and editing this video in 3 nights, and to my 3 patrons, That's Insane Henry, AJ, and David Height. It is with your guys' help that I keep the lights on. If you have the spare cash and you'd like to become a patron, you can always go check it out. The link is down below along with all of the other stuff. Without further ado, I'm going to fucking bed, guys. So, again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a great time. Memento Mori.